Jordan Hayes sat very still in the quiet lawyer's office in Houston. The air felt heavy, like even the walls were holding their breath. Across from him sat his younger brother, Caleb. They did not look at each other. In just a few months, they had lost both of their parents. First their mother, then their father. The house felt empty now. Life felt empty. Jordan was 34 years old, but he felt much older. The last 3 years had taken everything from him. When his father had a stroke, Jordan moved back home. He took unpaid leave from work. Later, he worked from his laptop beside hospital beds and in waiting rooms. He paid for rehabilitation, private nurses, medicine the insurance would not cover. He paid for everything. By the end, he had spent almost $280,000. He emptied his savings. He took loans. He used his retirement money. His longtime girlfriend left him because she said he was married to a crisis. But Jordan never complained. He believed family came first. He believed love meant sacrifice. Now he sat in the probate attorney's office, waiting to hear how their parents' estate would be divided. Not because he wanted a reward, but because he believed things would be fair. The lawyer cleared his throat and opened a folder. The family home, he began calmly. The rental properties, the life insurance policy, the remaining investment accounts. Jordan's hands tightened in his lap. All of these assets have been left to Caleb Hayes. The words hung in the air. Jordan blinked once. He thought maybe he had heard wrong. The lawyer continued. There is no provision for Jordan Hayes in the current will. No provisión. No repayment. No thank you. Not even a letter. Jordan slowly turned his head toward Caleb. Caleb was staring down at the table, his jaw tight. He would not meet Jordan's eyes. Jordan felt something heavy press against his chest. It was not anger. It was not even shock. It was hurt. He remembered sitting beside his mother's hospital bed. Her hand had been weak in his. She had squeezed his fingers and whispered, "You're our rock." He remembered sleeping in a chair beside his father's machines at 3 a.m. He remembered believing that love meant something. Jordan swallowed and asked quietly, "When was the will changed?" The lawyer checked the date. 6 months before your father passed. 6 months. Jordan's mind raced. That was when Caleb suddenly moved back home. That was when their father was heavily medicated. That was when everything became confusing. Jordan nodded slowly. He did not shout. He did not accuse. He simply stood up when the meeting ended. Outside, the Texas sun was bright and almost blinding. The heat hit his face, but he barely felt it. 3 years of sacrifice. 3 years of giving everything. And now he stood there with nothing. For the first time, a painful thought entered his mind. What if the last 3 years had been built on a lie? Jordan Hayes was the oldest child. From a young age, he understood that being the oldest meant being responsible. He did not complain. He simply carried the weight. Jordan became a corporate accountant. He had a stable job, a steady income, and a clear future. His parents were proud of him. In their church community, they often talked about his success. He was the example, the dependable one, the son who made it. When his father suffered a stroke, Jordan did not hesitate. He moved back to Houston to help. At first, he thought it would only be for a few months. But months turned into years. He took unpaid leave from work. Later, he worked remotely so he could stay close to home. He spent his days talking to doctors, filling out paperwork, and sitting beside hospital beds. He paid for rehabilitation therapy. He paid for private nurses when his father needed extra care. He paid for prescriptions that insurance refused to cover. The bills kept growing. But Jordan never said no. His long-term girlfriend tried to be patient. At first she understood. But after 2 years of canceled plans and missed holidays, she told him, "You're married to a crisis." Then she left. Jordan told himself it was okay. Family came first. He believed loyalty was the same thing as love. If you love someone, you show up. You sacrifice. You carry the burden. Caleb Hayes was different. Caleb was charming and confident. He had big ideas and big dreams. He started businesses, but most of them failed. He borrowed money often, from friends, from family, sometimes from Jordan. Their mother used to smile and call Caleb the dreamer. Their father would defend him by saying, "He just needs time." Growing up, the favoritism was quiet but clear. When Caleb made mistakes, he was given second chances. When Jordan made mistakes, he was reminded of expectations. Jordan had to be strong. Caleb was allowed to be lost. In their Nigerian church community, image was important. Their parents proudly spoke about Jordan's career. They liked that he made them look successful. But in private, they worried about Caleb. They feared he would struggle in life. They protected him in ways they never protected Jordan. Jordan never complained about this. He believed hard work would always be rewarded in the end. When their parents became sick, he assumed something simple. The estate would at least help cover the money he spent. He had taken loans against his retirement savings. He had gone into debt to keep his parents comfortable. But he never asked for repayment. Family doesn't invoice family, he believed. Now everything felt different. He was financially strained. His savings were gone. His future felt uncertain. Emotionally, he felt exposed and tired. For the first time in his life, Jordan began to wonder something painful. Was he truly loved? Or was he simply the one everyone relied on? Jordan requested a copy of the amended will the very next day. He needed to see it with his own eyes. He needed to understand how everything had changed. When the document arrived, he sat alone at his kitchen table and read every word slowly. The will had been changed 6 months before his father died. Jordan remembered that time clearly. His father had been heavily medicated. Some days he was alert. Other days he was confused and sleepy. He repeated the same questions again and again. Jordan's stomach tightened. He kept reading. Caleb was listed as power of attorney. That meant Caleb had the legal authority to make decisions for their father when he was not fully able. Jordan had not known that. Then he saw another line that made his hands shake. The will stated that Jordan had voluntarily provided financial assistance without expectation of reimbursement. Voluntarily. Without expectation. Jordan stared at the sentence. He had never signed anything. He had never agreed to give up repayment. He had simply trusted his family. He called Caleb and asked to meet in private. They sat in the empty family home, surrounded by quiet walls and old memories. Jordan placed the document on the table. "Did you know about this?" he asked calmly. Caleb did not look surprised. "You chose to pay those bills," he said. "Nobody forced you." The words felt like a slap. "I paid because they needed help," Jordan replied. "And you're doing fine financially," Caleb said quickly. "Dad didn't want you to feel pressured. You always had your career. You were stable." In that moment, something became clear. Caleb had changed the story. He had turned Jordan's sacrifice into a simple choice. A kind donation. A generous act that did not require repayment. Jordan realized Caleb had likely told their father that Jordan did not need anything. That Jordan was comfortable and secure. But that was not the full truth. Then another shock came. Jordan learned from a neighbor that one of the rental properties had already been sold. Sold quickly and quietly. But probate was not even finished yet. Jordan's mind raced. That should not have been possible. He decided to check further. He visited the hospital billing department and asked for detailed records. After several calls and paperwork, he discovered something troubling. Caleb had access to insurance refunds. Some refunds had been deposited into an account Jordan did not recognize. Jordan felt a cold wave of realization. This was no longer just about favoritism. This might be manipulation. Maybe even financial misconduct. Jordan sat in his car in the hospital parking lot, staring at the steering wheel. He had a choice. He could walk away. He could stay silent to protect what little family he had left, or he could dig deeper. If he investigated, he might destroy his relationship with his brother forever. But if he stayed silent, he would be accepting a lie. After a long moment, Jordan picked up his phone. He decided to investigate. Legal consultation began on a quiet Monday morning. Jordan sat in a small office across from a probate litigation attorney. He placed the copy of the will, the hospital records, and the bank statements on the desk. The lawyer listened carefully. He did not interrupt. After reviewing everything, the attorney explained a few important terms. Undue influence, he said, is when someone pressures or manipulates a person into changing their will. Elder coercion, he continued, happens when an older person is pushed into making decisions while they are weak or confused. And financial exploitation, he added, is when someone misuses money that does not belong to them. Jordan's heart beat faster. The words were serious. Heavy. "Do I have a case?" Jordan asked quietly. Possibly, the lawyer replied. But it will not be easy. It will be expensive. And your brother will fight back. Jordan left the office with mixed feelings. He had hope, but also fear. Soon the family pressure began. An aunt called him and said, "Why are you fighting your own brother over money?" A cousin sent a message accusing him of being greedy. Even church elders spoke to him gently but firmly. "Be grateful," they said. "Your parents are gone. Do not create division." Caleb told relatives that Jordan was resentful, that he was jealous, that he could not accept that things did not go his way. Jordan started doubting himself. Was he being selfish? Was he ruining the family's name? At night, he lay awake remembering the past. He remembered feeding his father when his hands were too weak to hold a spoon. He remembered sleeping in hospital chairs, waking up every time a machine beeped. He remembered missing a promotion at work because he could not travel for an important meeting. Where was Caleb during those moments? Sometimes he visited. Sometimes he called. But he was rarely there during the long, hard nights. Jordan reminded himself of the truth. This was not about greed. This was about fairness. Then he discovered something new. While reviewing phone records connected to financial documents, Jordan found text messages between Caleb and a financial advisor. One message said, "We need to accelerate the transfer." Another discussed timing, mentioning their father's condition. Jordan also obtained medical reports that showed his father's cognitive decline during the months the will was changed. There were notes about confusion, memory loss, and heavy medication. The picture became clearer. Jordan decided to confront Caleb one more time, before moving forward legally. They met again at the family home. The house felt different now, colder, emptier. Jordan placed the printed messages on the table. "What is this?" he asked. Caleb looked at them. For a moment he tried to stay calm. But something in his face changed. "You don't understand," Caleb finally said. "Then explain," Jordan replied. Caleb's voice rose. "You were always the golden child. You had the job, the praise, the respect. Mom and Dad were proud of you." Jordan stared at him, shocked. "They needed me more," Caleb continued. "I was the one who struggled. I was the one who could be left with nothing. You would be fine. You always are." The truth slowly came out. Caleb had been afraid. Afraid of being cut out. Afraid of being seen as the failure. He had convinced their parents that Jordan did not need an inheritance. That Jordan was strong, stable, secure. Jordan finally saw it clearly. This was not just greed. It was insecurity turned into manipulation. It was fear disguised as protection. As Jordan left the house that evening, he felt both sad and certain. The case was no longer just an idea. It was moving toward court. Medical records showing cognitive decline were the first pieces of evidence presented in court. The probate hearing was quiet but tense. It was not a large courtroom. Only a few family members were present. The judge listened carefully as the lawyers spoke. Jordan sat on one side. Caleb sat on the other. They did not look at each other. Jordan's attorney explained that during the months when the will was changed, their father was heavily medicated. The medical report showed memory loss, confusion, and poor judgment. Some notes even said he struggled to understand complex decisions. Then came the timeline problems. The lawyer pointed out that the will had been signed during a period when their father's condition was unstable. There were also financial transfers made before Caleb officially had full authority. Bank records showed money moving early. There were questions that needed answers. When Caleb took the stand, he looked nervous but determined. "That I was protecting the family," he said. "My brother has always been stable. He has a good career. I thought this was the best decision." He insisted he never forced their father. He said everything was done out of care. Then it was Jordan's turn. He stood slowly and walked to the witness stand. His hands were steady, but his voice was soft. He did not talk about the money. He did not talk about property or bank accounts. He talked about love. He talked about sitting beside hospital machines at 3 in the morning. He talked about feeding his father when he was too weak to lift a spoon. He talked about believing that sacrifice meant something, that being there mattered. "I never asked for payment," Jordan said quietly. "I just believed fairness would come naturally." The courtroom was silent. Then came something no one expected. Jordan's lawyer introduced new evidence, a voicemail that had recently been recovered from an old cloud backup. It was from their mother. Her voice filled the quiet room. "Jordan," she said gently, "I don't understand why Caleb says you don't want anything from us. That doesn't sound like you." The words were simple, but they changed everything. The judge leaned forward. The room felt different. The message showed that their mother had been confused about what Caleb told her. It showed that the story Caleb presented to their parents may not have been true. After a long pause and careful review, the judge gave the ruling. The amended will was declared invalid due to undue influence. The estate would return to the previous version. Equal distribution. Caleb was ordered to provide a full account of the funds he had transferred, and to repay any money that was improperly used. It was over. Jordan had won the case. He felt relief, but not joy. He looked at Caleb. There was no anger on his brother's face, only devastation. Jordan had won legally, but something between them had been broken in a way that could never fully be repaired. Aftermath felt quieter than Jordan expected. The estate was divided equally, just as the judge ordered. The house, the rental properties, the investments, everything was split fairly between the two brothers. Caleb was also ordered to repay the money that had been transferred improperly. It was not a small amount. Paying it back would take time. But the real cost was not financial. The relationship between them was fractured. They did not call each other. They did not meet for dinner. Family gatherings became uncomfortable and short. There were no more easy conversations. Weeks passed. One evening, Jordan received a message from Caleb asking to meet. They sat at a small cafe, far from the old family home. The air between them was tense at first. Caleb looked different, less confident, less defensive. "For the first time in my life," Caleb said slowly, "I need to say something honestly." Jordan waited. "I wasn't trying to destroy you," Caleb continued. "I just felt small my whole life. You were the strong one, the successful one. I thought Mom and Dad would always choose you. I was scared of being nothing." It was not an apology for losing the case. It was an apology for insecurity. Jordan listened carefully. He saw something real in his brother's eyes. Not anger, not pride, but shame. "I never wanted you to feel small," Jordan replied quietly. They talked for a long time. But talking did not fix everything. Jordan chose not to fully reconcile right away. Trust takes time to rebuild. Some wounds need space to heal. Instead of focusing on what he lost, Jordan focused on what he could rebuild. He used his portion of the estate wisely. First, he paid off his debts. He cleared the loans he had taken for medical bills. He rebuilt his retirement savings. For the first time in years, he felt financially stable again. But he did not stop there. Jordan decided to start a nonprofit fund to help families navigate medical billing. He knew how confusing hospital charges could be. He knew how quickly debt could grow during a health crisis. He wanted other families to avoid the stress he had experienced. Slowly, his pain began to turn into purpose. He also started therapy. For years, he had believed that love meant endless sacrifice, that being strong meant carrying everything alone. Now he understood something important. Love without boundaries becomes self-erasure. He had given so much of himself that he had almost disappeared. In therapy, he began reconnecting with parts of himself he had abandoned. His hobbies, his friendships, even his dreams. He was no longer just the responsible son. He was becoming his own person again. Jordan stands outside the now-sold family home. The front yard looks smaller than he remembers. The paint on the walls has been refreshed. The windows are clean. It no longer feels like his. He does not feel bitter. He does not feel proud. He simply feels clear. This house once held birthdays, prayers, arguments, laughter, and long hospital nights when he came home exhausted. It was the place where he learned to be strong. The place where he learned to carry responsibility without question. Now it belongs to someone else. And that is okay. Jordan takes a slow breath. He realizes something important. He did not fight for the money. If it had only been about money, he could have walked away. He could have accepted the loss and moved on quietly. He fought for acknowledgement. He fought for truth. He fought for dignity. He needed the story to be told correctly. He needed his sacrifice to be seen, not erased, not rewritten as something small or voluntary or meaningless. His phone vibrates in his hand. For a moment, he looks at Caleb's name in his contacts. After everything, There is still a small space in his heart that hopes for growth, for both of them. He types a simple message. I hope we both learn from this. He does not expect a perfect relationship. He does not expect the past to disappear. But he hopes for maturity, for healing, for honesty. Jordan slips his phone back into his pocket and looks at the house one last time. Then he turns and begins to walk away. He feels lighter. Not because he won the case. Not because he received his share. But because for the first time in a long time, he chose himself. As he walks forward into the bright afternoon light, one thought stays quietly in his mind. Sacrifice should be honored, not rewritten. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this story. Yellowheart. If it touched your heart, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. See you in the next one. Red Heart.